Have you ever felt like the ground was pulled out from under you? Like the life you once knew crumbled, leaving nothing but emptiness? Today, you'll witness the inspiring story of William, a man who lost everything: his family, his direction, his hope. But in his darkest moment, he found the strength to rise again, to turn his pain into purpose, and to discover a new meaning in life. This isn't just a story of resilience, it's an invitation to believe that even in the worst storms, there's a new dawn waiting. Don't miss this powerful journey that could change the way you see life's challenges. Click now and be inspired. William adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, looking at the reflection of an ordinary man. He knew his routine was predictable, but he liked to think that it was part of what made his life stable. His marriage to Emily had lasted over 15 years, and together they had built a warm home for their two children, Ryan, 13, and Lily, 10. Although there were occasional challenges, he believed the love they shared overcame any problems. That morning, William rushed out, balancing a cup of coffee and his briefcase while saying goodbye to Emily and the kids. "See you tonight," he said, planting a kiss on Lily's head and waving to Ryan, who was already engrossed in his phone. Emily smiled, but there was something different in her eyes. He noticed but didn't comment. "She's just tired," he thought. After all, taking care of two kids at such tricky ages wasn't easy. The workday passed like any other. Meetings, tight deadlines, incessant phone calls. William was used to the pressure and fast pace, but there was something comforting about the idea of returning home at the end of the day to the familiar noise of the kids and the scent of Emily. He even stopped by a florist on the way home, choosing a bouquet of lilies, his wife's favorite, to surprise her. When he arrived home, the silence was the first thing that struck him. No sound of television, laughter, or hurried footsteps. Only a cold silence that seemed to echo through the house. Confused, William entered the living room and saw that it was impeccably tidy, something that didn't align with the usual chaos of a house with kids. He called out their names, but no response came. On the dining table, a white envelope stood out. William's heart began to race as he picked up the letter with trembling hands. He knew, even before opening it, that something was terribly wrong. Emily's handwriting was clear and direct, as it had always been. "William, I can't keep living like this. We need to go our separate ways. The kids and I have left. Please don't try to find us. It's better this way for everyone." He read and reread those words, searching for some clue that this was a misunderstanding, a mistake. But reality hit him like a punch to the chest. The bouquet of lilies slipped from his hand, scattering petals across the floor. He sat on the couch, feeling the weight of loneliness for the first time in years. Night fell, but William didn't move. Hours passed in a blur as he stared into the void, trying to piece together what had just happened. He picked up his phone multiple times but couldn't bring himself to call Emily. Shame, pain, and confusion paralyzed him. The world he knew had vanished in an instant, leaving only silence and an overwhelming sense of abandonment. The weeks following the abandonment were a blur in William's life. The house, once filled with movement and laughter, now felt like a mausoleum. The kids' bedrooms remained untouched, toys scattered as if Ryan and Lily might return at any moment to resume their play. But they wouldn't come back, and he knew it. Emily's letter became a symbol of everything he had lost, tucked away in a drawer he compulsively opened and closed, as if hoping the words inside would somehow change. Work, which had once been a welcome distraction, soon became an unbearable burden. William couldn't focus on even the simplest tasks. He spent hours staring at his computer screen, lost in thought. Meetings were a challenge, as he felt the concerned gazes of colleagues who, though they didn't ask directly, seemed to know something was deeply wrong. It didn't take long for William to start avoiding the office, opting to work from home instead. The loneliness was crushing, but he lacked the strength to face people. His days devolved into a routine of minimal self-preservation. He ate just enough to keep from fainting, slept little, and spent nights sitting in the living room, illuminated by the dim glow of the television, which he rarely paid attention to. Clutter began to pile up around him, a reflection of his emotional state. Dirty dishes stacked in the sink, and the floor was strewn with clothes he didn't bother to pick up. It all created a scene he barely recognized as his home. One night, While rummaging through some old boxes in the basement, William found a photo album. It was a record of the life he had built with Emily, birthdays, vacations, and everyday moments he never thought would end. He spent hours flipping through those pages, tears streaming down his face. It was like reliving each memory while simultaneously accepting they belonged to a past he could never reclaim. That moment, though painful, marked the beginning of a realization. He was sinking into his own despair, with no perspective for change. The isolation didn't help. The few friends William had tried to reach out initially, but he ignored their calls and messages, unable to face any kind of social interaction. Even the neighbors, who occasionally greeted him over the garden fence, started avoiding eye contact, as if his sadness were contagious. He had become that man, the lonely neighbor whose life had fallen apart. One day, while sitting on the couch staring out the window, William felt an overwhelming weight in his chest, a sense that he couldn't continue like this much longer. The thought scared him. He knew he needed help but had no idea where to start. Then a memory surfaced, the kind smile of his neighbor, Mr. Harris, a retired man who always showed genuine interest in the people around him. William didn't have the energy to seek help elsewhere, but perhaps, just maybe, Harris could offer a kind word. That afternoon, in a rare moment of courage, William left his house and walked to Mr. Harris's porch. He hesitated before knocking, but before he could change his mind, the door opened, revealing the older man with a look of surprise and warmth. "William, what a surprise. Please, come in," Harris said, gesturing for him to enter. It was there, in that small room filled with the smell of coffee and old books, that William finally opened up. He spoke of his pain, his guilt, and the overwhelming sense of having lost everything. Harris listened patiently, without interrupting, and when William finished, he placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone, my friend," Harris said. "We all face moments when it feels like the world has crumbled, but the important thing is to take a step, even if it's a small one. One step at a time." Harris suggested that William consider attending a support group at the local church. "It's a place where people share their stories and find strength in each other," he explained. Although reluctant, William knew he needed to try something, anything, to pull himself out of the abyss he'd fallen into. He had nothing left to lose. As he walked home that evening, for the first time in weeks, William felt something different. It wasn't hope, but perhaps a small spark, the idea that his life might still hold some meaning, even if he didn't yet know what that was. William parked his car in front of the small red brick church in the heart of town. Mr. Harris's suggestion echoed in his mind, but hesitation kept him from stepping out. The movement near the entrance indicated that the support group was beginning, and he almost put the car in reverse to leave. But something, perhaps Harris's quiet insistence or his own desire to escape the emptiness inside, made him take a deep breath and open the door. The community hall was simple, with chairs arranged in a circle and a table at the back holding coffee and cookies. The atmosphere wasn't intimidating. In fact, it felt welcoming. The people in the group looked so different from one another, yet William noticed a common thread in their expressions, a blend of pain and determination. He sat quietly, avoiding eye contact, preferring to observe. The meeting began with a middle-aged man named Tom, who shared how he had worked through the grief of losing his wife. Tom didn't try to sugarcoat his story. He was honest about the endless nights of crying and the struggles to find purpose. But as he finished, he smiled. "I'm still here, and each day is just a little better than the last." Those words lingered in William's mind. Perhaps that was what he needed, a daily battle with the possibility of progress. When it was his turn to speak, he hesitated, but, encouraged by the gentle look of the group leader, Sarah, he began to share. He spoke about Emily leaving, the absence of his children, and the crushing weight of loneliness. The words flowed more easily than he expected, and when he finished, he felt an unexpected sense of relief. For the first time, someone had heard his story without judgment or pity, only understanding. As he left the meeting, Sarah pulled him aside. "It was brave of you to come today, William. Not everyone has that strength at the start," she said, handing him a flyer with information about upcoming meetings and activities. "Come back. There's no rush to fix everything, but just being here is a step." In the days that followed, William began to notice small changes within himself. The pain was still there, but simply having the commitment of the group encouraged him to leave the house. The idea of sharing and listening to stories made him feel less isolated, as if he wasn't the only one facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. Between meetings, William decided to follow another piece of advice from Mr. Harris: to take walks. At first, it felt like a pointless effort. He wandered through the city park, aimless, feeling more like an observer than a participant in life around him. But gradually, he started to appreciate the small details: a child's laughter on the swings, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, the calmness of the lake. These moments, though brief, offered his overburdened mind a respite. One day, during one of his walks, William noticed an elderly man painting on an easel near the lake. He stopped to watch, and the man, noticing his interest, invited him to come closer. The artist, named Arthur, shared how painting had become his way of finding peace after losing his wife. "Have you ever tried capturing moments like this?" Arthur asked, gesturing toward the horizon where the sun was setting. William shook his head, but something stirred inside him. He remembered his camera, tucked away in a closet for years. It had been a gift from Emily in the early years of their marriage, back when he used to photograph events and everyday moments. Inspired by the conversation, he decided to retrieve the camera and see if he still had something to offer. That evening, William found the camera and began experimenting. He took simple photos of the view from his window, objects around the house, and the neglected garden. The images were far from perfect, but to him, they held meaning. Photography gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in months, a way to express what words could not. For the first time since Emily had left, William felt that something was beginning to change. It wasn't a complete transformation, but small steps: a support group, a walk, a photograph. Each one felt like a fragile thread of hope, slowly intertwining to form a net he could lean on. The days began to feel different for William. They weren't miraculously happy, but they carried a novelty he hadn't felt in a long time: direction. The support group remained an essential pillar of his routine. Each meeting strengthened him, and he began volunteering for small tasks like setting up chairs or preparing coffee. That sense of being useful was something he had lost but was now rediscovering. Between meetings, William continued to explore his passion for photography. What had started as a personal exercise, taking pictures of small details in his home and at the park, quickly grew into something bigger. He began capturing everyday moments around the city: an elderly woman feeding pigeons, a couple laughing on a park bench, children running through a fountain. These images were like fragments of stories that, in some way, mirrored his own journey. Each click felt like a way to capture beauty amidst chaos, a way to prove to himself that life could still hold meaning. One day, during a support group meeting, Sarah mentioned a community campaign to raise funds for families in need. They needed someone to document the stories of the people being helped and turn them into something that could move donors. The idea floated in the room, and before William could think it through, Sarah looked directly at him. "William, how about using your photography to help?" There was a moment of hesitation. He still felt insecure about his skills, but something in the way Sarah encouraged him made him agree. "I can try," he replied softly. In the days that followed, he threw himself into the project. With his camera in hand, he visited families, listened to their stories, and captured images that conveyed both their struggles and their resilience. It was during this process that William met a woman named Claire. She was a single mother of two, living in a small apartment downtown. Despite her challenges, Claire's eyes sparkled with a light that seemed to brighten any room. As he spoke with her, William learned that Claire had gone through something similar to him. She had also been abandoned but found the strength to keep going for her children. Her story not only inspired him but also helped him see his own possibilities. "You can start over, you know," Claire said with a smile. "It all begins with the choice to believe it's possible." Her words resonated deeply with William. He began to realize that documenting the lives of others was helping him find meaning in his own. Every story he captured became a piece of the puzzle that was helping him rebuild himself. And, for the first time, he felt his photos could impact lives beyond his own. Over time, William's photographs began to gain recognition. The community campaign was a success, and his images were displayed at a fundraising event. During the event, many people approached to praise his work. One man, Richard, the director of a local nonprofit, was particularly impressed. He asked if William would be interested in collaborating on future projects. "You have a talent for capturing the essence of people," Richard said. "And that's something rare." Richard's proposal was a milestone in William's journey. He accepted the offer to collaborate with the nonprofit, documenting social and humanitarian initiatives across the city. This work exposed him to a new reality, showing him just how much he could still contribute to the world. More than that, it helped him realize he had found a purpose: to give visibility to those who were often overlooked and to tell stories that deserve to be heard. As his work progressed, William also began reconnecting with those around him. He grew closer to Mr. Harris, who had become both a mentor and a friend. Harris constantly reminded him that life wasn't about avoiding pain but about growing through it. William also started visiting Claire occasionally, bringing her small prints of the photos he took and discussing ideas for community projects. Their friendship grew naturally, built on mutual respect and understanding. But not everything was easy. William still had moments of doubt, nights when the emptiness seemed to return. During those times, he found solace in photography and the support group. The difference now was that he knew he wasn't alone. He had built a support network that kept him steady, something he never thought possible. One afternoon, while reviewing some photos at home, William received an unexpected message. It was from Emily. The message was brief but carried immense emotional weight. "Ryan and Lily miss you. We'd like to talk." He froze for several minutes, his heart racing. It was the first time he had heard from Emily since the day she left. After taking a deep breath, William replied, agreeing to meet. He knew this meeting would be a challenge but also an opportunity to face the past with the strength he had built. He didn't know what to expect, but for the first time, he felt ready for whatever came next. William sat at a small cafe table in the bakery Emily had chosen for their meeting. The atmosphere was calm, with soft lighting and the muted hum of quiet conversations in the background. Despite the cozy setting, he felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Emily's invitation, though unexpected, stirred a mix of emotions he could barely name: fear, hope, and a tinge of anxiety that tightened his chest. When Emily entered with Ryan and Lily by her side, William noticed how much his children had changed. Ryan was taller, his shoulders broader, signaling his transition into adolescence. Lily had the same sweet smile as before, but her eyes carried a maturity beyond her years. He wanted to embrace them immediately but stayed seated, waiting for them to take the lead. "Hi, Will," Emily said cautiously. He responded with a nod and a nervous smile. Ryan and Lily hesitated for a moment before approaching. When Lily finally hugged him, William felt a wave of relief so overwhelming it nearly brought him to tears. Ryan, more reserved, extended his hand for a handshake, but William sensed the softness in the gesture, a subtle sign that perhaps not all was lost. The meeting began with an awkward silence, but Emily, visibly more at ease, broke the ice. "I thought long and hard before reaching out," she began. "It hasn't been easy for me, and I imagine it hasn't been for you either. But Ryan and Lily miss their dad, and well, I wanted us to talk about how we might move forward." William listened intently, refraining from interrupting. Every word Emily spoke seemed heavy with meaning, but he knew this moment wasn't about blame or resentment. He had changed, grown, and now he could listen without letting the pain take over. When she finished, he responded calmly, "Emily, I made a lot of mistakes in the past, but I never stopped loving our kids. I want to be part of their lives again, in whatever way you think is best." That statement seemed to ease some of the tension. Lily began talking about how much she missed their walks in the park, while Ryan mentioned how he missed the corny jokes William used to tell. Small memories started to fill the space between them, creating a bridge that seemed possible to cross. However, the conversation wasn't entirely smooth. There were moments when Emily brought up the difficulties she had faced during their marriage, and William had to confront those truths with humility. He acknowledged his mistakes but also took the opportunity to share how much he had changed. He spoke about the support group, his work in photography, and how it had helped him reconnect with the world. It was important to him that Emily and the kids saw that he was no longer the same man he used to be. By the end of the meeting, Emily made a proposal that surprised William. "Maybe we can start slow. You could visit the kids next weekend. Let's see how it goes." It was a modest offer, but to William, it felt monumental. He immediately accepted, his voice filled with gratitude. As they said their goodbyes, Ryan gave his father a firmer pat on the shoulder this time, and Lily hugged him tightly once more. William watched as they walked away, feeling a mix of relief and determination. He knew this was only the beginning of a challenging road, but for the first time, he felt he had a real chance to rebuild his relationship with his children. Leaving the cafe, William couldn't help but smile. He still had much to prove, but now there was a light on the horizon. This meeting wasn't just a reconciliation with his family, it was proof that his journey of transformation was allowing him to reclaim what he valued most. William stood in the crowded gallery, his photographs displayed along the brightly lit walls. The images captured moments of hope and resilience from the lives of those he had encountered during his journey. The hum of conversations and the admiring gazes of visitors filled the space with a vibrant energy. He had never imagined his work would have such a profound impact, yet here he was, witnessing the results of his transformation. By his side, Ryan and Lily watched with pride. "Dad, this one's my favorite," Lily said, pointing to a photo of a lone tree blooming in the middle of an empty field. "It feels like a new beginning." William smiled, touched by the depth of his daughter's words. Ryan placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "You've done an amazing job. We're proud to be part of this." Emily approached from a respectful distance. "The kids are so happy. Thank you for including us," she said softly. William nodded. "It means everything to me to have you all here." Though there were still unresolved issues between them, there was a sense of peace. They both understood that, no matter what the future held, their shared priority would always be the well-being of Ryan and Lily. Claire was also present, chatting animatedly with Mr. Harris. They waved at William, and he felt a surge of gratitude for the people who had supported him along the way. Mr. Harris raised a glass in a silent toast, and William returned the gesture. Claire's warm smile represented the friendship and encouragement that had helped him move forward. As the evening progressed, William reflected on his journey. From the depths of abandonment to the moment he was now living, he had walked a path filled with challenges and self-discovery. The pain that once consumed him had become a distant memory, replaced by a profound sense of purpose and connection. He walked to the centerpiece of the gallery, where one of his most meaningful photographs was displayed, an outstretched hand offering help to another. It symbolized everything he had learned. Life was about connections, reaching out and accepting help when needed. William took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. He had not only rebuilt his life but also found joy in helping others find their own hope. Surrounded by family and friends, he knew that, no matter what obstacles lay ahead, he would never face them alone. If this story touched your heart and inspired you, don't forget to show how much it meant to you. Like this video, leave a comment sharing what impacted you the most, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope. Together, we can spread stories that change lives. Your engagement makes all the difference.